I started my journey as an HR back in 2015, and soon after I completed my MBA, and I was in a huge fix whether to go for marketing or for HR, because there's always this confusion. Marketing is a well-paid field, and it's a well-paid job. At the same time, HR is something that uh, just like every Indian kid, parent want the child to be an engineer. I feel every girl who's doing an MBA wants to be an HR. So that's like a theory. So, I was fixed between the two because I didn't want to do the conventional thing, but at the same time, HR was where my heart, was lying, or it was kind of a calling. So, I did work, I started working with a Bombay based IT company. It was a startup then, and I worked there for close to 6 months before I realized that sales and marketing is not my cup of tea. No matter how well paid the job was, I was only person from my college to be placed at that package. I mean, it was a proud moment when I got the job, but the feeling died quite early. So then I moved. I took a break, and I was parallelly also preparing for armed forces. So I had my SSB lined up. So I went for my SSB in June 2015, and then in August 2015. And unfortunately or fortunately, today I could not clear the SSB, and then I was back, home. I was jobless, and that's where I started figuring out what do I need next. I had an option of returning back to the same company, but I was so fixed in my mind, I don't want to do sales and marketing anymore. So that's where I picked up a job as an intern again, and I started like from zero. I went to Hilton, which is a leading hotel brand we all know, and there I started my journey as a OJT, on-job trainee in the HR department, and I worked there for close to 4 months, and I learned all the know-how of basics of what human resources is, learning and development, about basic functioning of a hotel operation, the environment. So post which my training ended, and then again the question was what next, because it's very difficult to find people really want that if you either you're fresh out of college or you are an experienced candidate. Someone who has been not working or been a trainee or an intern or has already switched job in 6 months is not a very ideal candidate in the market. So it was a struggle again, and with Hilton at that moment there was no vacancy. So I had a promise that whenever there will be a vacancy, I'll be absorbed, but at that given moment there was no such vacancy. So soon after that I found my landing in the Lalit, Jaipur. It was again a new property that in 2015, it was a very young property. So I joined there, and I started working again as a HR coordinator. And within a month or month and a half, I got a call from Hilton that we have an opening in Delhi office if you're willing to travel and relocate to Delhi. And I guess I picked up everything, and I spoke to my manager in Lalit, and I told them that I really want to go there. I've already worked, I've established, I've learned about that particular brand, and I want to go back and attach myself to the same brand. And they were generous enough to let me go in a with a very short notice period, we can say. I was anyways under probation, so the notice periods are generally very less during probation. So then I moved to Hilton Saket. So Hilton Garden, it's the property is in New Delhi, Saket, and I started my proper HR journey from there. A lot to learn, a lot to handle, and I was fortunate enough to have good managers, good mentors, and a good female boss to say. I learned a lot from her because I did my training also under her only in Jaipur. So that ways I knew her from before, and she excellent human resource person, I would say. So from there, I started learning. I worked with Hilton for 1.5 year, then moved to Bombay with another known manager, and I started focusing more towards training and development. So I started working with Smash. It's a retail sector, and it's a gaming zone. So they have a lot of game zones. It's across all the tier 2 cities also now. I used to travel a lot with them. I was handling all of their centers across central and southern India. And from there I started, diving more into learning and development, which was like more focused in, more focused side of human resources. And it was, again, it was booming. It was something which was coming up in the market that time. 10 years back, people were not very, learning and development was not a very dedicated department. It had just started coming as a, a separate department. So I worked there for close to 1 year, and then I had to move back to north for my family reasons. So I interimly joined a contractual position with Zone by the Park. It was again a pre-opening hotel, and everything was required to be done from scratch. It was an HOD position. So I worked there for 2.5, 3 months, and then I joined Inox. So Inox, again, is a very established name in the Indian market. I was working with Inox Leisure Limited, which is the entertainment segment, where I was responsible for the learning and development again for the cinemas that are operating under Inox. And Rajasthan and Uttar Pradesh were the states that I was holding. So it was a regional role, and but I did travel to other states when it came to pre-opening. Again, fortunate enough to work under a female boss, and I learned a lot about learning and development from there. After Inox, I got married, and then I had to take a small break wherein I was mostly doing freelance trainings. I was participating in activities related to the organization that my husband is working in, and I was a part of the women association that we have. So I was mostly engaging internally until we got posted to Hyderabad, and here again I found my next career with Machint Solutions. It was an IT startup, and there I joined as an engagement and training manager, but soon I was promoted as associate director HR, and I was taking care of end-to-end all HR training and recruitment activities. My primary or my first task was to set up a team. So we built a team of 10 resources. Six were on the recruitment side, and then three were on the HR side, and then I was there taking care of both the teams. So that has been my journey so far. I recently completed my notice period with Meshint, because again we are now set to move, given the nature of my husband's job, and the next stop would be Delhi. So that's where I'm now. I thought it will be good to take a small break, because personally I feel breaks are also important. There is no harm in taking small breaks in between, if they help you bounce back or perform with a larger and greater energy at work again. And also it was festival season, so I thought it's the right time. I'll take a quick break of a month or so, and in which all the festivals will get wrapped up, our packing and moving will be taken care of, and then I can start my next journey in the next place. So that's something I have been doing so far. But yes, given my nature, it's very difficult for me to sit idle at home. See, between my training and my first job, also I picked up a small assignment, and I knew it was going to be temporary because I'll move back with Hilton. But then I didn't want to sit idle at home. So that's one thing. It was very difficult, coming out of a job and then, joining somewhere as a trainee. That was also very difficult. But in that moment, my only priority was to be, that I should have some place that I get up, get ready for, go and do something meaningful related to what I have studied or related to where I want to build my career. So I feel that's what I'm trying to do now also. I try to meet and engage with people. I am trying to contribute in freelance trainings. Like I connected with your team. So this is also a part of, like, it's kind of a professional engagement wherein I'm still doing, and we are talking about, what my learning and experiences are. So this is what I'm doing meanwhile until I get my next assignment. So not just career break of 2 years and above. I feel career break of even 6 months hampers the growth. And especially, see, women in general, I feel there is always a disparity between the pay scale of a male employee and a female employee. Being in HR, I have seen these things because we are dependent on approvals coming from, the higher ups. And I've always seen that there is, a difference in the salary. I have seen when we return back from a break, the first foremost challenge is that we are always asked to join back on the previous salary. because we have not been working in between means our knowledge has tarnished, so we should join back on the previous salary. So that's the first challenge. Second is, we don't even get the, a promotion or a position that we are aiming for. We are always given one grade less than that. Like, I resigned Inox as a manager of a regional role, and I again had to join as a manager only, and that too not of that big of a role. It was a very niche or very dedicated role to begin with, to start with. Although I was lucky enough to be promoted soon, but I started on a smaller role. These are two primary challenges that we face. So, as an HR and as an organization, I feel that we should focus on, whether the skill set of the candidate is fitting our role and requirement. If yes, then whatever is the budget set, we should give the best of that budget, instead of, negotiating too much, getting somebody on a low morale, or compromising just for a few thousand and getting somebody else who is agreeing to come on a lesser salary, and, letting go of a good candidate. We should not encourage these practices. So, as an HR, the duty is to always guide and convince your management to do the right thing, because the company will always, of course, look at the monetary side also. Businesses are running for profits. Nobody would like to run business for not profit. So, in that is something, as an HR, the first duty is to convince your management and guide them about the best practices. And management should also participate in such, discussions. They should go in out of the offices off and on, and engage or participate in seminars or webinars that happen, which speak about these topics. And, they should expand their learning and horizons about, females coming back from the career breaks or the wage gap. See, whenever a female is returning, especially if she's returning from a maternity break, it is very important to take care of the emotional health of that female, because there's so much already going on with the body. And, it's a maternity break is what, of 26 week. But, in 26 week, every women's body is different. Some females can bounce back maybe within a month, but while at the same time some females take up to, 2 years to get back in the same health, both physical and mental. And having said that, the kid will grow at the same pace, right? It will take 2 years for a kid to be 2 year old and to be, able to understand and be a little self sufficient. So I feel that, females who are coming back from maternity break, for them the organization must have, very very well defined policies, wherein they take care of their emotional health. They take care of the workplace hygiene also, because they need to understand that these mothers are going back to, their kids who are very young, and who are very prone to, picking on infections or on allergies. So the workplace hygiene also should be taken care of. And third, there should be some dedicated spaces wherein these ladies can go and express themselves, in terms of, talking, in terms of sharing their information. There should be a safe space available. If a company does not has an in-house counselor, then they should have an on-call counselor to provide these facilities. If an organization can provide maybe, an in-house nursery, then nothing like it. I feel that's the best an organization can do for a female returning from a maternity break. Now, for other females coming from any other sort of breaks, there should be good and robust learning programs, because the knowledge is always there, but, they may be a little out of practice. There should be good hand holding, or, buddy programs, so that they can quickly absorb into the corporate culture or the working style of that organization. And there should be patience, exhibited from both management and the immediate manager. She should not be, judged on every small a mistake, or, every small gap. So I feel, these are the practices that we should always keep in mind. We should be inclusive, we should be open, and we should be patient about anyone who's returning back from. I feel the support system for a female, not just in professional environment, but also in personal environment, is the biggest barrier. The minute a female steps out to go, to go to work, I've seen it in my own house, and at some point every female has gone through this journey. Some have been, again, lucky and successful enough to educate their families eventually and make them understand about their challenges and resolve them. But most of them still struggle. So when I got married, and then I picked up my job in Hyderabad, I used to travel 1.5 hour one side. So daily 3 hours were in traveling. Apart from that, 9 to 10 hours of working. So after that, coming home, my energy levels were not that I will take care of the household chores as well. But that was something I was expected of, because because of the way that we all have been brought up. And for my husband also, it was a new concept, because first the marriage is new, and then suddenly the girl is not there the whole day in the house, and then he's also coming back tired. So both of us used to be looking at each other that who will get the cup of tea. So I mean, that is a challenge. And like I said, that some of us are lucky that we eventually are able to make them understand, make our families understand of the challenges, and how they can be of support, or how they can be a catalyst while we continue to work. So family is one of the biggest strength, and if they're not on the same page, that is one of the biggest barrier to any female who goes out to work. So that, having said that, professional barriers are also there. For example, the learning opportunities, the KRAs. The KRAs defined for a female, sometimes I feel that you cannot set unrealistic goals, and maybe a target cannot be same for a female who is a mother, and at the same time a male who is a bachelor, or maybe not having that many responsibilities. If you keep same amount of targets, then naturally if she is not able to meet, so we should also focus on the efforts being put by that particular individual in able to achieve, or perform their duties at work. One more factor that I've observed is that whenever a female goes on maternity break, most of the time they suffer their appraisals, and the maternity break is at the cost of losing out appraisal for that year. So they naturally become, they're left behind. So hence, two individuals who have started at the same time may not reach a certain position, or may not be eligible also for that position at the same time, because the female is usually left behind in the process, by appraisals, or by family issues, or by the breaks that they have to take for the natural reasons. And these are, I guess, very few. There may be many more barriers that maybe exist. Right. So, see, females in general, and this is something I've seen in every office. We always have a group that hangs out over a smoke or a cup of tea, and they are much more bonded. At the same time, there may be a female in the same team who is working rather harder than them, and while their breaks are long, she is not taking that many breaks, because she doesn't smoke, and she may not be used to going out to tea stalls 2 times or 3 times in a day. But yes, because they all are going out there and having informal discussions and having chit chat, so their bonding is very strong. So that's where I feel the bonding in general with female employees, the intergender bonding is very is somewhat questionable in the offices I've seen, unless there are girls who maybe be comfortable going out, standing there, or even smoking. Then the group is welcoming and open to them. Otherwise, there are always judgment about ladies who reserve their opinions on that matter. Like I myself, I don't believe in taking too many breaks, because my general agenda of the day is to go and to finish my work in the stipulated time. If it is my 9 hours, then I must finish my work in 9 hours. If I'm not finishing, then probably, then of course I am not the one who's productive. I should not then say that the task was difficult, or the timelines were difficult. So that is my personal philosophy. People may agree or disagree. I feel the opportunities, whether it is learning, growth opportunities, promotions, or pay scales, they should be fair and transparent. They should be open door policies, and the communication should be always two-way. So there should be an equal space or voice for females also in the organization, as we give, like if if an ex person is cracking a joke or is making a statement, we may not take it too much to the heart. But if the same line or if the same statement comes from a female, generally it is received with a judgment. At the same time, it also comes when it comes to ideas and initiatives, that when a female proposes it, people feel less confident about it, because generally 90% time it is said that females are very emotional, they're thinking from their heart. And while at the same time, if same idea is coming from a male employee, then it is considered as a very brainy idea, and that yeah, he is appreciated for it, and then also is given a go ahead very easily to implement the idea. So if we kill such practices and if we kill such ideas, then only a place can become an equal there can be an atmosphere of equality. So there should be a parity in pay scales, there should be a parity in appraisals or performance processes wherein we are evaluating the performances, and the opportunities should be shared with everyone in a transparent way. And based on the skill set and competencies, the selections should be made not on basis of uh, whether she will be going on a maternity leave, or is she coming from the maternity leave, or she's going to be getting married next year, so she'll definitely take a break, let's not waste or invest too much time in her. Or she has just got married, so she will be planning a family soon. So we have to come out of these these orthodox way of thinking. And the profitable way, business way of thinking is that in this moment this person is profitable, she or he is the best fit, so let's go ahead with this candidate or this. Right. So, see, females in general, and this is something I've seen in every office. We always have a group that hangs out over a smoke or a cup of tea, and they are much more bonded. At the same time, there may be a female in the same team who is working rather harder than them, and while their breaks are long, she is not taking that many breaks because she doesn't smoke, and she may not be used to going out to tea stalls 2 times or 3 times in a day. But yes, because they all are going out there and having informal discussions and having chit chat, so their bonding is very strong. So that's where I feel the bonding in general with female employees, the intergender bonding is very is somewhat questionable in the offices I've seen, unless there are girls who may be be comfortable going out, standing there, or even smoking, then the group is welcoming and open to them. Otherwise there are always judgment about ladies who reserve their opinions on that matter. Like I myself, I don't believe in taking too many breaks, because my general agenda of the day is to go and to finish my work in the stipulated time. If it is my 9 hours, then I must finish my work in 9 hours. If I am not finishing, then probably, then of course I am not the one who's productive. I should not then say that the task was difficult, or the timelines were difficult. So that is my personal philosophy. People may agree or disagree. I feel the opportunities, whether it is learning, growth opportunities, promotions, or pay scales, they should be fair and transparent. They should be open door policies, and the communication should be always two-way. So there should be an equal space or voice for females also in the organization, as we give, like if an ex person is cracking a joke or is making a statement, we may not take it too much to the heart. But if the same line or if the same statement comes from a female, generally it is received with a judgment. At the same time, it also comes when it comes to ideas and initiatives, that when a female proposes it, people feel less confident about it, because generally 90% time it is said that females are very emotional, they're thinking from their heart. And while at the same time, if same idea is coming from a male employee, then it is considered as a very brainy idea, and that yeah, he is appreciated for it, and then also is given a go ahead very easily to implement the idea. So if we kill such practices and if we kill such ideas, then only a place can become an equal there can be an atmosphere of equality. So there should be a parity in pay scales, There should be a parity in appraisals or performance processes wherein we are evaluating the performances, and the opportunities should be shared with everyone in a transparent way, and based on the skill set and competencies the selections should be made, not on basis of whether she will be going on a maternity leave, or is she coming from the maternity leave, or she's going to be getting married next year, so she'll definitely take a break. Let's not waste or invest too much time in her. Or she has just got married, so she will be planning a family soon. So we have to come out of these orthodox way of thinking, and the profitable way, business way of thinking is that in this moment this person is profitable, she or he is the best fit, so let's go ahead with this candidate or this. So see we talk of a lot of theories, we talk of a lot of metrics and a lot of models when it comes to L&D, but I feel it things need not be complicated that much. The first thing is that whenever you hire somebody, your induction program should be so strong that your individual goals should be always aligned with the organization goal. Just when the employee a candidate enters as an employee in your organization, he or she should be in depth explained about what the organization is. Therefore the induction is, in some organization the inductions goes up for 15 days. For 15 days the employee is allowed to understand the organization, because that's where if I don't know what the business is about, and if I'm not attached to the business, then how will I contribute? I may come and do the work, but I will not contribute. So there's a difference between working and contributing. The first thing is to set good KRAs, clear KRAs, explain them to the team member. There should be good tracking program, that the progress tracking or the performance tracking, and all these things happen only when there is a good engagement in the team. If your manager is connected with the team, if your manager has a habit, if your company culture is about seeking feedback, open feedbacks, and where you can brainstorm, you can put your ideas forward without any inhibitions, where you can speak and talk and voice yourself, so the engagement is good because there's good relationship in the team. And if engagement is good, then we know where the gap is, what needs to be done, and then accordingly a performance improvement plan can be installed in place. Also PIP is one word which comes with a lot of negative connotation with it. PIP is equals to termination, a shortcut to termination. So that is something, neither the companies should use this term for those things. At the same time the employees must also be educated that PIP means performance improvement. It is not a tool to show you the gate to exit. It is only to improve you so that you come up to pace with what is expected out of you. So there should be timely feedbacks, there should be timely assessments. Whatever goals are assigned should be, there should be clearly defined goals that can be tracked, and by both the parties, by employee and the manager. And based on that the performance plans should be discussed. Like I said, discussed, they should not be announced. This is also something that happens a lot. We announce the performance improvements, we announce the ratings, but a discussion does not happen the way it should happen, in a very healthy way or in a very open and transparent way. So that's what I feel about the how to identify and how to address. uh, to address also, we need to have a very strong learning culture in the organization, that people should be open to learning, they need to understand importance of learning. A lot of time there is a fight between operations and learning department, because operations cannot always give a time at the cost of the operational hour for the learning, and outside operational hours nobody want to learn because they don't get paid for it. So that's where a balance need to be drawn, that learning is important and everyone has to understand, agree it, and encourage their team members to take out time efficiently from the operational hours. And sometimes outside operational hours they will do it if they're made to understand this is going to benefit them, not just in this organization but in future also. I guess IT skills, because of late whatever seminars or webinars I have been a part of, we have only been discussing artificial intelligence, AI interventions, how how to automate HR processes, learning processes. So future is IT. We already see so many robots being induced in a lot of organizations for at receptions or for order taking. So your team members need to be equipped with good IT skills, because even on the safety side, if we see data security, data safety, again all IT related. These days the biggest theft everyone is scared of is data theft. All the scams that we see are happening online. IT theft is the biggest threat. So in hospitality industry, where we capture so many detail about our guests, we capture their credit card numbers, we capture their debit cards number, we capture their personal informations. So in such scenario, IT security and knowledge of the IT equipment, knowledge of artificial intelligence, and inducing learnings or courses that may help with the future products that might come in market to automate the processes. For example, in a hotel setup, the security team is not that IT equipped as a front office team is, because one, the security teams are mostly outsourced, they're contractual employees. So naturally the tendency is that why to invest so much in a contractual staff who might just leave at any point in time, because they keep on rotating. But we also need to understand that that's the security team. That's where they have a huge responsibility on their shoulder. Tomorrow some anything happens to your guest, or any mis giving happens, or any bad activity takes place, security team has to take care of it. So they need to be equipped with modern equipments. And because sooner or later we will have a lot of equipments around us. Even when we go into a hotel, we will see a lot of changes from the IT perspective, whether it is order giving, order taking, or checking in process. So the team should be prepared for what lies in future.